Hello, and welcome to the Christy Adams Show. I hope you're ready to be inspired by my guest today. She is a mother of 3 adult children and a grandmother of a very sweet little boy. She's an attorney, and she's been my friend for more than 40 years. Welcome, Kathryn Cisco-Sturgill.
Thank you, Christy. Good to see you today.
Hey, it's good to see you too. I'm so happy that you get to join me today on my show. You and I have known each other since middle school. That's a really long time. And one reason that I wanted to have you on is because you've always had such a grit and determination about you, Kathy, that I have found encouraging. And I think back from the time that we were in 7th grade, I remember you trying to learn gymnastics out in the commons area of the school on the grass, and you wanted to get your back handspring so bad so you could try out for cheerleader. And I just remember that you never gave up, no matter what. Every day, during breaks, during lunch, before school started, you just kept doing that. You kept practicing with a girl that we went to school with, and no matter how many times you fell, you just kept getting back up and trying it again until you finally mastered your back handspring. After that, I remember you tried the back tuck or whatever it's called. And then you made the cheerleading team, and you were a cheerleader all throughout high school. That took great determination. And I remember thinking, even as a young girl back then, a 13-year-old girl, watching you and knowing what having that amount of determination can do for you in life. And I know that you've carried that with you throughout your life. And if you could tell our viewers a little bit about your story and how you use that same fortitude to overcome some pretty tough obstacles in your life that you've had to overcome to be where you are now, an attorney.
Well, you know, Christy, thinking back on it, I can remember that now just as well as you can. And really, it's fond memories. And I didn't mind working hard, and I didn't mind being less than perfect. I always wanted to strive to be better. And I know the common girl that you're talking about. And I enjoyed her company as I did yours. And I liked both of you. And she was just a step ahead of me, if I remember correctly. And if I know me, I've always enjoyed working with someone who's a step ahead of me. It keeps me striving to do better. And so that's always been real important to me, is not being really number one, but being the one who's striving to be like maybe the person that I hang out with. So that's one way that I'm able to move forward and to get ahead, if you could call it getting ahead. I never really thought much of it until you contacted me. I feel like I'm really just a simple kind of person, and I really don't even know what I'm doing here today, but how this even happened. But I will tell you that it takes a lot of discipline, self-discipline. You know that. I know that there's been many nights that you've laid awake and nervous, and many thoughts running through your mind, and trying to figure out, you know, how you're going to do things tomorrow and in order to meet your goals. First thing you got to do is you got to have a goal. And hopefully it's always something, a goal that we like. For instance, you know, I understand that this is, this talk show is new for you, and you wanted that. You're a good talker. You was always a good talker. I did a little thinking after we talked, and talking, you know, I was good at gymnastics. I was good at other stuff. You always talked. You loved asking people questions. And so hopefully the goal is something that you like to do and you want to do. And I think since I was a child, I think I was a lawyer probably even when I was a child, because I was born and raised in a holler, and there was always at least 10 kids playing. Sometimes when they get in trouble, you know, I'd have to go home with them to explain to their parents why they to mitigate things. Come to find out, that's what it's called. But it's discipline, and discipline turns into determination. We have to, we fall a lot along the way, and I think the number one thing, and I learned this a few years ago, which I think I've always exercised some kind of patience. But I had a good friend, and they said patience. That's number one thing. You fall, and then you got to have patience. You may not get it right the next day. It might be 6 months, a year later, but you got to have patience in waiting for what you want. You got to stay focused, and you've got to stay positive. And something that we don't often like, and I never did mind, is constructive criticism. I had gymnastics coaches, and sometimes they just had to tell us the truth in regard to what we're doing wrong, and they did so in order to help. So don't ever be offended at someone who's politely trying to help you by criticizing something. It's constructive criticism, and it's really, it can be a great thing. We need to thank those people.
Absolutely. Well, Kathy, I don't think I've mentioned this, but you are an attorney. You're sitting in your friend's courtroom right now in Huntington, West Virginia. You actually went to law school late in life. And when you did, you had 3 very small children. Can you tell us how you brought that determination and the discipline, like you were talking about? You had a goal of becoming a lawyer. You used your discipline, your determination. Tell us about how hard that was to go to college and become an attorney with 3 little kids. I know I'm in college now and I don't have any small ones. I don't even have a spouse, and it's still really hard for me. I can't imagine what it was like having 3 little ones hugging to your leg while you were trying to do homework. Tell us how you used all of the things that you just described to get you through one of the hardest educations that anybody can try to get, being an attorney.
Well, thank you, Christy. And I'm just going to kind of call on you for some of your motherly instincts and joys. First of all, we love our children. We want our children. It was a joy for me to raise my children. You're not the first person who's been shocked and surprised that I could do that. Ashley was around 6 years old when I started. Jessica was born May 4th. Today's her birthday. May I say happy birthday, Jess?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
All right, great. She'll be excited about that. So she was born May 4th, and I started school the second week of August. Anthony is 15 months older than she is. I'm sorry, younger than she is. Anthony's 15 months younger than Jessica is. And I really just wanted it all. Nothing about me never wanted my children. I was always happy to have my children. I really couldn't imagine doing it any other way. I need to feel necessary and loved, and I like to take care of, and that was all part of the things that drove me. But you're not the first person to ask, and I had to give up a few things that I really didn't care about anyway. I remember telling one of my first bosses, Tanya Hatfield now, she says, "How do you do it?" And I think it was the first job that I'd ever had, as a lawyer. And I said, "Really, it's not that difficult." I said, you're a basketball coach. You referee basketball games. I said, I don't do that. And so there was a lot of things that I didn't do during that time in order to balance things out. But I enjoyed doing it. To me, it wasn't, let me tell you something, nothing's ever easy. Jobs aren't easy. I don't care if you work at Dairy Queen. Nothing's ever easy. But I don't remember it being extraordinarily difficult because I enjoyed law school. And I enjoyed my children. And I guess that's how I did it.
Yeah, that's great. I think that you hit on the most important thing. Prioritize. You have that goal, and if that goal is important to you, that goal will be one of your top priorities, and you will let other things that aren't as important fall to the wayside so you can get to where you're going. That's fantastic, Kathy. I've watched you, speaking of your children, I've watched you raise 3 very strong, very independent children who have that same work ethic as you do. All three of them are successful. Tell me a little bit about how you taught them, how you instilled that same work ethic in them that you had. Your daughter, your oldest daughter, is an attorney herself now. And tell us how that you took and passed that down to them. It's so important to raise. I was talking to somebody earlier. It's so important to mold and raise our children when they're little in those formative years and teach them, the keys to success. And you have certainly done that.
Oh, Christy, I never really sat them down and tried to teach them any of that. I think that just comes natural in a home where your mother is getting up and helping you to get ready for school and she's getting ready for work. And I think it just becomes a way of life. They watch, they're smart. All kids are smart. That they observe and they see you doing hard things. And the next thing you know, it was always very funny. And you'll see me sharing some of these things when they were small and the debates around the table and the funny things that were said. They were competitive with each other and trying to see who was most independent, who was the better adult, when really they were all just 3 feet tall, Ashley, just a little taller. I remember Jessica, she got up one morning and I think maybe she was 3.5 or 4, and here came Anthony and they got into it. And he was very small, 2.5, 3. He said, "Oh, sissy, can't we just compromise?" Are you kidding me? Really, it was a joy, and it just happens. It happens by accident, and you just encourage them. And really, you still got to, you have to tell them the truth when they're doing things wrong. You have to try to help them, and you have to try to be kind to them. And you just kind of guide and direct, and they'll do the right thing.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like to me, based on what you just said about how they were in competition with each other, the way you explained earlier, how you like to have someone ahead of you so you can strive, sounds like they were the same way. So you definitely passed that down because they had each other to look at, to strive to, become more successful. So that's fantastic, Kathy. I think that's amazing. And you have every right to be so proud of your children. They are amazing adults. They really are. All three in their own right are amazing adults. And as we talked about earlier, you're an attorney and, late in life, but you're an attorney. And I want to switch gears a little bit. I recently read an article that discussed the many forms of bias that female attorneys face. And I'm not sure if you faced any of these, but let's touch on some of those. Some of them were unequal pay in the workplace, discrimination, even sexual harassment in the workplace. Tell me if you have dealt with those or if you've known anybody that have dealt with those, and how you dealt with them if you have, because those are very unfortunate circumstances that happen, all over the world, especially in America.
Yes, they are very unfortunate circumstances, Christy. You're exactly right. And as you and I have talked before, I really don't have a lot of experience with that because I've always worked for myself. I started out working for myself, short of the job that I had with Tanya Hatfield for the first few months. And I've never, never really experienced any of that. So to say that I had would just be telling you something that's false. Now, do I know that things like that go on? Yes, I do. And women have fought very hard to be where they are today. And do I know women who that has happened to? Yeah, and I know a couple of people. One of them, it was, she's an elderly lady, and she's a very sweet and kind lady, and she's got more wisdom than probably all of West Virginia put together. And I do know that according to her, and we've talked at length about it, that it's very hurtful and it's painful It's embarrassing and it's humiliating. Even the process, the legal process, it makes them feel very bad. And I really can't expand on it a lot because it's just something that I don't know a lot about, other than I do know that it's real, and that it's terribly sad. And like you said, it's very unfortunate.
Well, I'm glad that you've never faced it in your own life. That makes me happy that you haven't had to come up against that kind of stuff. Well, as I told you, time and time again on the phone, I think I told you last year, I find your determination to be so inspiring, Kathy. I mean, it helps me, like I said, even as a young girl, to have the insight that I had to notice, hey, this girl's on to something. Just keep on keeping on. Even if you fall, keep on going. And I know that other people find you inspiring too. Many people have seen your struggles, your private struggles, your public struggles, that we won't go into today. But what advice would you have for young women, or even maybe older women who are facing adversity and maybe facing something that's keeping them from pursuing a goal? What advice would you give to them to push past that and to keep going until they get to where they want to be?
Oh, I've got all kinds of advice, and I could talk to you all day about it. First thing is that they can make it happen by persevering, and it is a journey. You don't get somewhere overnight, or most of us don't. You've got to have a lot of persistence, and you've got to hustle. I think I heard you talk about it before. You've got to have grit, I think is what you called it. But you got to hustle. You can't just lay down and think about it. I think we talked before, and I think one of my first answers to you was, I think a lot of people think too much about something good that they want to do, and until they finally talk themselves out of it. So I wouldn't think a lot about doing something that probably would benefit me or my family if I was somebody else and I was thinking about it. I'd probably just try to go and put the plan into action. Now, with that, once you put that plan into action, really should always do these things, and I'm getting ready to say to you, but especially afterwards, once you get yourself in a place where you can touch lives. Touching lives is so important, and you're doing it every day now. I'm so proud of you. You're a very conscientious person. And but you got to be kind, I think, along the way, even when you don't want to be, or you think you shouldn't be. You always should be. You should always be kind to people and courteous. You got to be strong, compassionate, thoughtful, and you got to be forgiving. There's so many people, that hurt us. They don't even mean to hurt us sometimes. Sometimes they do. Do they regret that next year? We don't know. They might. So we've got to be very, very forgiving. We hope to be forgiven. If we want to be forgiven, then we got to forgive whether we want to or not. I mean, some things are worse than others, and it's hard. We know that. But, and to be patient. We talked about that before. Humans aren't perfect. None of us are. I don't know one perfect human. And so we've got to exercise all that. And we've got to let go of being too judgmental, really judgmental at all, unless you're in a judge's seat where that's your job. That's what you're paid to do. And in the last 2 years, I think I've been in front of 22 judges across the state of West Virginia. And I see them practicing a lot of kindness. It's about resolving problems. It's not always about retribution unless it's something heinous and violent. Sometimes we talked about this before. It's about rehabilitation and trying to help. The law should not be a war, which it is. It's two lawyers, each arguing a side. Somebody's got to lose. but it's really about resolving problems. And that's a win-win situation when you can resolve people's problems. Or help. You can't be self-centered and egocentric. That's just not going to work in any field, I don't think. And you've got to try to touch lives. And most importantly, I think you've got to be a good listener. It's not always about the person that's talking, even if you're the one with the power to talk or the smartest. Sometimes it's not about that person. Because they're not the one experiencing the problem. It's about the person who does have the problem, and they need to talk, and we need to be good listeners. So that's what I would say to the professionals coming up, and that would be my advice for them.
That's great advice, Kathy. I loved what you said in the very beginning when you first started answering the question about how don't think too much. Just don't think too much. Just go and do what you got to do. Just do it. We know that's a famous slogan. But so I know that you have a new venture coming up that I know you've thought about it a little bit, but I knew when you first started sharing it on Facebook that you should just do this. And I was like, Kathy, just do it. And let our viewers know about what you're working on now and how you're going to have, what show you're going to have on YouTube.
Well, as far as I know right now, it's really just kind of like a hobby. It's just something like a lot of people golf. I like to cook. And it's not about the eating, it's about the art. And I just enjoy it. It's like an outlet for me. So my cousin Charlie Brown and I, we talk a lot. And he's a very good cook too. And you know me, I've already told you that I like working with someone who's just a step ahead of me. It's never any fun if I'm the one that knows everything. It's not as interesting for me. So I'm looking forward to working with him. And maybe doing a YouTube show. I don't know. It might go on to be something else after that if we get enough viewers. But I think we're going to call it Cooking Cousins. And I'm really excited about that. And everybody who knows Charlie Brown, my cousin, is just a few years younger than me, 3 years in Mingo County. Actually, he lives in Pratt County now, just right across the bridge there from South Williamson. But he was born and raised in Mingo. But he's really something else. He drives an 18-wheeler for Walmart. He's a very, very hard worker. He's a preacher. He's funny. And I think that we really got something to share.
So, Kathy, I think that is so awesome that you and your cousin Charlie are going to do that. And I love the title Cooking Cousins. I think that's great. Hopefully you'll make some down-home cooking along with, a lot of other things. But I want to thank you for coming on my show, sharing your journey, sharing your encouragement, your words of wisdom. Just, being an inspiration to the young people and even older people out there. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and being a guest today.
Thank you, Christy. It's always good to see you.
So thank you all for watching today. And if you like the show, please share it with your friends and family. And remember that every stumbling block in front of you can be a stepping stone because you're an overcomer.